Thank you. Good afternoon. It is great to be back at Philanthropy New York for a PhilTalk. Rana Sabbagh is a result of remarkable commitment and dedication. Rana is the executive director of Arab Reporters for Investigative Journalism, and she's dedicated 31 years of her career as a journalist, columnist, and media trainer to promote free speech and independent and free media and human rights. She's the former editor-in-chief of the Jordan Times, the first female editor, Arab editor ever in the history of the Levant to run a daily political newspaper. Her biography is truly remarkable. We're thankful to Open Society Foundations for making it possible for Rana to be with us. Please welcome Rana Sabbagh.
Good afternoon. It's a true pleasure for me to be here today and to share some of my personal and professional experience. I'm a woman. I'm half Jordanian. I'm half German. So I've got the passion of the Arabs and I've got the discipline and the hard work of the Germans. And this is, I guess, what has kept me going in these difficult times. I come from the Middle East, and unfortunately, it's become an ugly area, an ugly place. We are today, after the post-Arab Spring, stuck between the dictatorship of President Sisi of Egypt and the terror and torture of ISIS in Syria and Iraq, which are the borders of Jordan. We're stuck in between. We're trying our best as journalists to speak out in a very difficult region. Governments are cracking down on us in the name of stability and security. We're being muzzled. Society is against us. Chief editors are against us, and everyone is just out there, ducking for safety. I'm going to talk briefly about this column, which has changed my life. As Darren said, I was chief editor at the Jordan Times, and in this column, I questioned allegations of police torture at detention centers, and in less than 24 hours, I was sacked. I was fired. I couldn't open my mouth, but I think that was a turning point in my life to the better. Today, I've been running Arab Reporters for Investigative Journalism. We operate in 9 Arab countries, stretching from Yemen in the south to Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, and lately Tunis. In this organization, we have produced and published over 350 hard-hitting investigations in different platforms. Every investigation has led to a policy change, has led to accountability, has led to a better life for the local society. We've also trained 1,200 journalists, and we have helped 150 media professors that are today introducing investigative reporting in Arab media, universities, and faculties. Our donors are international media support based in Copenhagen, SIDA, the international arm of the Swedish Development, Norwegian Foreign Ministry, Open Society Foundation. But we've also had some other donors, like Ford Foundation. Ford Foundation allowed us to operate in Egypt on a very small local scale. We were training journalists in governorates on how to do more urban governance reporting. Our investigation, for example, using a hidden camera, has showed how these little falafel stalls were using oil that has been heated up for at least 7 days, sometimes for weeks. And as a result, they were, spreading cancer. So the ordinary people were eating falafel made in oil that was burning for a week. And after this, the government basically cracked down on all these little shops, and they forced them to have stricter monitoring. This is the story of grain silos that are feeding the Egyptians. These grain silos are left in the open. You have rats, you have dogs, you have rain, you have humidity, and you have human feces polluting this. As a result, certain chemical reactions occur and are also causing cancer. So our journalists went undercover, overcover, took samples, showed the ferocity of this situation, and as a result today, they have erased this big site and they are rectifying the situation in Egypt. This is a story we're doing. This is going to cause a lot of trouble. This is a story about the police conscripts in Egypt. We're working on it with the BBC because we need protection. This is a story about the policemen that are drafted into the paramilitary forces, get $50 a day, are bullied around by their bosses. Some of them have been killed, some have committed suicide. And our brave journalist has tracked the story of eight conscripts and has showed how they died and has showed the collusion between the prosecutor general and the people on base. This is a story in Tunis. One of our journalists went undercover. She pretended to be a pious Muslim. She wore the abaya and the headdress. And she basically went into kindergartens that had sprung up after the Arab Spring with the complicity of the Muslim Brotherhood that was running the government. These kindergartens on the outside looked very normal, friendly, had paintings on the wall, but inside they were a factory for producing a new generation of Wahhabi indoctrinated kids. Inside these kindergartens, kids less than 5 years of age were taught to separate, segregation of sexes. They could not jump, they had to pray all the time. This was the replacement for physical exercise. When they taught them the Arabic alphabets, it was not the normal alphabet that students in other schools learn, it was the Quran. And as a result, they couldn't even paint because the Wahhabis are a very strict and Puritan form of Islam, spearheaded by the Saudis in Saudi Arabia. So they do not believe in painting or drawing human faces. So these kids were drawing faceless people, and as a result, one of the kids went to his mother. He was petrified. He had to go on counseling. He said, "Where is my nose? Where is my face?" Anyway, our brave journalist showed everything. She pretended to become a teacher. She was basically taking and studying how to become a teacher in these kindergartens. And after we broadcast this, the government was changed. The Islamists were taken out of power. And today there is a secular government that has decided to close down 200 of these kindergartens. This is another grisly story of the continued torture in Tunisia, even under a new, more open-minded regime. Our journalist also has interviewed at least 10 of the Tunisians that have been tortured. She has confronted the ministers responsible. He has shown the form of torture, and we hope that the new government is now taking enough measures to make sure that such atrocities are at least mitigated and minimized. Yemen. This is a story about overfilling morgues. In Yemen, people sometimes have to wait for 6 years in order to be buried. And inside this morgue, you find Jews and Christians who cannot be buried in Yemen because it's a Muslim country and there's no place for their burial. So there was a brave local woman who decided to fix the papers, the burial certificates of these papers, and she was able to basically have them buried. But our journalist documented what was happening in these morgues. Unfortunately, the war broke out in Yemen as we were getting ready to broadcast this. It will be broadcast shortly on Arabi TV based in London. This is a story that we just did in Jordan about about centers that are treating children with autism, and they are using a special oxygen compression. This procedure has been banned by the FDA in the States. Our journalist documented abuses at 5 centers. He showed that these families were like selling everything they had just to give a better life to their kid. They were working under nobody was observing them. The 5 doctors running these centers were not even members of the medical association. As a result, kids were not getting any better and the families were just spending fortunes. When we broadcast this, the 5 centers were closed down and the officials have been taken, for interrogation. This is another very sad story about women in Jordan that basically get raped by rapists and they get pregnant, and then they end up having to marry their rapist because there is a clause in the law, in the penal code, that allows this to happen. So in order not to go through the court procedures, they end up marrying the victims, but then they leave them a month later. And the kid basically is shamed in society because he's a bastard. He can't get his dad's name. And the woman has to live with the trauma of being a rape victim herself. After we basically documented stories of 20 women, the Jordanian women members in parliament are now looking at a total revision of this law, making sure that this does not happen again. So as I said, this is our last snapshot. This is a story we did in Iraq, and we could not publish it locally because of the high risk. It was about the corruption of the former Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. We ended up publishing it in a Washington-based website called 100 Reporters. It's about Perk's corruption of the Prime Minister, buying loyalties and giving people land deeds just to make sure that he gets voted in the parliament. So these are basically what our team of journalists are doing, everyone that we have trained in these 9 Arab countries. Our last story is from Palestine, where our journalist has gone undercover and has shown how the dates that are grown in Israeli settlements are being laundered in Palestinian-Israeli factories and are exported to the West as Palestinian produce. As a result of this, the Minister of Agriculture in the Palestinian territories has basically installed CCTV cameras in all plants, and they've basically cracked down on a few of these factories. So we don't have many friends in these 9 Arab countries. But I'm really proud because our journalists are working against all odds and they are risking their lives for a better community. The only thing that has saved us is basically that it is fact-based and we confront the culprits before broadcast and publication. So we've been able to impact society for the better. This NGO I'm running is pioneering because it's the first time there is investigative journalism in the Arab world, and I'm here and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.